Hello everybody, my name is Senkara and welcome to the deck profile of the Seeds of Chaos. This is Yubel's Sacred Beast deck used in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime, both while she was possessing Martin and Johan, also known as Marcel and Jesse in the English version, but those names suck. So if you want to see this deck in action, be sure to check out the previous video or the previous short if you prefer to watch this deck being showcased. But this deck is a lot of fun and really easy to use. It's brilliant. This is my favorite Sacred Beast deck that I've ever done, and it is absolutely amazing. I really love this deck. This deck does use anime cards, just so you're aware. It does use the anime cards, but it is still, you know, if you like dueling with anime cards like I do, then this is a lot of fun. If you love Yubel like I do, then this is even more fun. So let's go through this deck real quick. So starting off, we have Chaos Core. I am using the real-life version of Chaos Core because it is a little bit better than the anime version in that its effect goes off when it's targeted by a card effect and by an attack, which is pretty great, as opposed to just by an attack like the anime version. We have 1 copy of Chaos Summoning Beast and 3 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast. Now, I am aware that these cards aren't actually meant... I'm aware that these cards weren't actually used by Yubel, but they are clearly meant to be a part of Yubel's deck. I mean, just look at them. Dark Beckoning Beast is obviously, by the name, based off of Dark Summoning Beast, which is one of Yubel's cards. Same with Chaos Summoning Beast, and if we just look at the artwork for Chaos Summoning Beast real quick, I mean... this guy is based off of Yubel, right? Like, he's got all of Yubel's color scheme. So these guys are clearly based off of the Yubel cards and a fantastic Sacred Beast support that you absolutely need for any Sacred Beast deck. Next up, we got 1 copy of the anime version. This is our first anime card, the anime version of Dark Summoning Beast. So what this card does in the anime is that you contribute it to special summon URIA, Harmon, and Yrythaela from your graveyard, ignoring the summoning conditions, and then you can't conduct your battle phase this turn. So this card will bust out all 3 of your Sacred Beasts all at once, which is pretty brilliant. It's pretty amazing. Is it better than the real-life version? Debatable. It's debatable. Sometimes the real-life version is better, but in this case, we are focusing on the Dark Summoning Beast, and it actually works out pretty well. It works out really well, I think, actually. Better than the real-life version, and it brings them all out at once, which is pretty amazing. Next up, we got 1 copy of Grave Squirmer. This is just to, get rid of any of your opponent's cards when it's destroyed by battle. It's a pretty good card. Yubel uses it. We have 1 copy of Lord of Striking Thunder Harmon. This is the anime version of the card, so not only is it a Divine Beast, but you can also summon it by sending 3 face-down spells. They don't have to be face-up continuous spells. The rest of his effects are the same. When it destroys a monster, inflicts 1000 damage, and when it is destroyed, you don't take damage for the rest of the turn, and if it's in defense mode, your opponent can't target other monsters for attack. So, Hamon, pretty great card. Bust him out in defense, especially if you're using Dark Summoning Beast and can't attack. Then Hamon in defense is great, protects your other monsters. Next up, we have 1 Phantom of Chaos. This will allow you... we are using, again, the anime version of Phantom of Chaos, the difference being that the real-life version will force you to banish a card from your graveyard to use its effects, and we don't want that. We want to keep them in the graveyard. So the anime version keeps them in the graveyard. He can copy the effect of any monster in the graveyard and keep its original attack, but neither player takes... your opponent takes no battle damage from attacks involving this card, but you use them to copy Harmon. He gains 4000 attack, you attack, and then if you destroy the monster, they take 1000 points of damage thanks to Harmon's effect, which is pretty great. Next we have 1 copy of Phantom SKYBLASTER. In this case, we're using the real-life version because he will allow us to get 1 extra token as opposed to the anime version, which does not count him as a monster on the field in order to summon tokens, so just keep that in mind. Either way works, but I prefer the real-life version because it gets an extra token, but you won't be able to deal damage right away. But it's better to have more tokens, I think. If we're going for summoning Yrythaela, it's better to have more tokens. Okay, next up we have 1 copy of the anime version of Yrythaela. Once again, this is a Divine Beast. It does all the same things that the real-life version does, but slightly different. So, the real-life version requires you to tribute 3 fiends. This one requires you to tribute 3 monsters. In this deck, it doesn't really matter since all of your monsters are fiends except for the Sacred Beast, so unless you want to tribute them to summon him, but otherwise it doesn't really matter that, so you can summon him with his normal summoning requirements if needed. Same with the other 2 Sacred Beasts, have very easy to summon with their real-life requirements. But the other thing this guy does is that instead of tributing 1 monster to gain attack, he tributes 2 monsters to gain attack, so just keep that in mind. In a way, it's kind of a little bit worse, but also a little bit better depending on how you think of it. I don't know. But anyway, Yrythaela, anime version, here we are. Next we have the anime version of Grinder Golem, also known as Torch Golem. Torch Golem is pretty awesome. You can summon him to your opponent's side of the field by summoning 2 Torch tokens to your side of the field. The difference between this and the real life version is that this version does not stop you from normal summoning. So basically, you summon this guy, bring out 2 tokens, tribute them, normal summon Yubel, and then of course, anime version of Yubel, 1 copy of her. When she attacks, your opponent takes all the damage. When your opponent attacks, they take all the damage. Basically, when anyone attacks it, your opponent takes all the damage from this card, basically. This is different from the real life version, which only deals damage when your opponent attacks it, which is far inferior, and I really hate it. But this is Best Girl Yubel here, and then to wrap up the monsters, we have 1 copy of the anime version of URIA, Lord of Divine Flames. Again, Divine Beast. He can be summoned by sacrificing face-down traps, not just continuous ones. He gains 1000 attack and defense for each trap card in your graveyard, again, not just continuous ones. Now, once per turn, you can destroy a face-down monster your opponent controls. A face-down spell or trap your opponent controls. Can't be activated in response to the activation. And if this card is destroyed, then during your next main phase, you can discard a trap to special summon it from the graveyard, but it cannot declare an attack that turn if you control another monster. So that is the effect of the anime version of URIA. Obviously slightly much better than the real life version. And that wraps it up for our monsters. So the basic combo with these monsters that we're running with here is, of course, to summon Chaos Core, let it get attacked or targeted, send your 3 Sacred Beasts to the graveyard, and then bust out Dark Summoning Beast to bring them all back on the field. This is the combo Yubel used, and while stalling for a Dark Summoning Beast, she used Phantom of Chaos to steal the effects of the Sacred Beasts in the graveyard and attack with them. The other combo is, of course, the Torch Golem Yubel combo, and the Phantom Skyblaster combo. Basically, summon Phantom Skyblaster, bring out 2 tokens, and you can immediately go into Yrythaela. Very easy with this deck, especially because it's so easy to get 2 monsters out on the field, or just 1 monster plus Phantom Skyblaster, and then you get 2 tokens, and then you tribute 3 for Yrythaela. It's really easy. Phantom Skyblaster is actually really good with this deck, and of course if you don't have Yrythaela, you can go into Link monsters, which we'll get to in a minute. So next up for our spells, we have 3 copies of Akashic Record. This card is basically a pot of greed, so you draw 2 cards, reveal them, and if those cards have been played during the duel, they are unfortunately removed from the game. You almost never run into that problem with Akashic Record. There aren't a lot of double ups. Well, in the case of most of the double ups, you use it and then it summons the other double ups right away, so you don't have to worry about drawing them. But Akashic Record, 3 of them, draws 2. Bloody brilliant, absolutely fantastic draw spell. Next up we have 1 copy of Burial from a Different Dimension. This will get our Sacred Beast back in the graveyard after we use our 1 copy of Dimension Fusion Destruction. We are using the real life version of Dimension Fusion Destruction because the anime version is kind of shit. Why would you get rid of your Sacred Beast when they're on the field? Very few instances when you would do that. But when they're in the graveyard, however, Dimension Fusion Destruction is fantastic. This card can fuse your Sacred Beast from the hand, field, or graveyard by banishing them in order to summon Chaos Phantasm Armityle, or any Phantasm Fusion monster, actually. And it also prevents you from taking damage from attacks involving the special summon monster, which is fantastic. It is brilliant. Next up, we have 2 copies of Dual Gate. This is another fantastic draw spell. Basically, you remove this card face up and 1 Dual Gate from your graveyard to draw 2 cards, which is brilliant. We have 1 copy of Eternal Reverse. This card is fantastic for just setting your opponent's troublesome cards like their skill drain. Get rid of that skill drain. And it works brilliantly with URIA in that it allows you to set a card per turn, and then URIA can then just proceed to blow it up with its effect. So Eternal Reverse, brilliant, fantastic card. Works really well in this deck. Next we have 1 copy of the anime version of Hand Destruction. The difference being that the anime version causes both players to discard 4 cards. Send 4 cards from your hand to the graveyard, or however many cards are in your hand. If you have less than 4, draw the same amount, or if you have no cards in your hand, you just draw 1. So Hand Destruction anime version is brilliant, much better than the real life version, arguably. It depends what you're going for, but it allows you to draw 1 card and your opponent doesn't need to have 2 cards in their hand, which is always a problem with Hand Destruction. Next up we have 1 copy of Nightmare Shuffle. This card is our all or nothing gamble card. So when you activate this card, it sets 1 random card from your graveyard into your spell and trap card zone. You're not allowed to look at it, and at any time you can send Nightmare Shuffle to the graveyard to activate that card. If it meets its summoning requirements, great, you can activate it. If not, something really bad will happen. Next we have 3 copies of Opening of the Spirit Gates. This card probably wasn't meant for Yubel, it's more of a Kakemaru card, but it is a fantastic support card for Sacred Beast. It does a lot of stuff, I've gone over it many times. If you don't know already, just read the card. Basically, activate this, grab Dark Beckoning Beast, or vice versa. This card can summon fiends from your graveyard. That's the other great thing, is it can summon 0 attack fiends from your graveyard by discarding a card. Not only does this include all of the Sacred Beast support, but it also includes Grave Squirmer, Chaos, well, Phantom of Chaos, and of course our darling Yubel, which is great. This is the main way that we'll get out Yubel if we need to get out Yubel, which of course you always get out Yubel. I love Yubel. Anyway, this card will also bring back a continuous spell from your graveyard if you have a level 10 on the field, which is fantastic, which allows you to basically get another opening in Spirit Gates from your graveyard, discard it to bring back a monster. You keep looping that to bring back your monsters for Yubel's tribute as well, which is great. Next up, we have one copy of Painful Choice. This card is a banned card. You can swap it out for either Foolish Burial or even better Foolish Burial goods, but this card is actually really... it's perfect for this deck. It works so well in that there are quite a few cards that need to be in the graveyard. So with Painful Choice, there are 3 cards in particular that you want to choose. You want to send your Dual Gate and 2 copies of Delta Barrier, so that these guys can get their effects off of later when you draw them properly. But that gets them in the graveyard, hopefully, unless your opponent chooses them. And it can also get Yubel in the graveyard to bring it back with Opening of Spirit Gates, or anything to bring it back with Opening of Spirit Gates. And it can get your Sacred Beasts in the graveyard as well if you need to quickly do that to bust them out with Dark Summoning Beast or Dimension Fusion Destruction. So Painful Choice, it just works really well in the deck. It's just perfect for this deck, and it's absolutely brilliant. Really, like, I'm not gonna say you need it, but like, you need it. It's just so good, and it really works with Delta Barrier. Otherwise, it's very hard to get those Delta Barriers in the graveyard. So Painful Choice, fantastic. Another option to swap it out for would be another copy of Hand Destruction, which is how Yubel got Delta Barrier and Dual Gate in the graveyard. Next up, we have 3 copies of Triangle Force. This card is a lot of fun. When you activate Triangle Force, you activate 2 more from your deck, and that is all it does. But this is obviously meant for the summoning requirement of Haman. It immediately busts out free spell cards on the field to summon the Lord of Striking Thunder, which is what Yubel does, of course. So Triangle Force, great card for Sacred Beasts, I guess. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. So that is all for the spell cards. Next up, we'll go into the traps. We have 1 copy of Awakening of the Sacred Beast. Again, probably more of a Kakemaru card, but that's okay because it's a fantastic Sacred Beast card. And considering how easy it is to summon all 3 of them with this deck, Awakening of the Sacred Beast is a brilliant card. It's just fantastic. Read it if you don't know what it does. Next up, we have the anime version of Chaos Burst, a card that Yubel uses. 2 copies of Chaos Form. This will provide some protection for our Sacred Beast support and our Phantom of Chaos, which is what Yubel uses it on. It targets basically when your monster is attacked, the equipped monster is attacked, it targets a random monster in your graveyard and gives your equipped monster the attack points of that monster indefinitely, apparently, which is great. That's fantastic. So Chaos Form, pretty cool card. Continuous Trap, great. Next up, we have 3 copies of Delta Barrier. This card is good. When you activate it, you can place 2 Delta Barriers from your graveyard face up on your field, and once per turn, if you would take battle damage while you control 3 Delta Barriers and a monster, you can activate this card and basically negate the attack. You take no damage, your monster's not destroyed, and since you have 3 of them, you get to do it 3 times. I don't think that's how it's meant to be used, but that's how the wording is, so I'm gonna go with that, because that's a lot more fun to get 3 attacks per turn. Next up, we have 1 copy of Hyperblaze. This card is a really good Sacred Beast support card, especially in this deck. Not only does it tremendously boost Yuria's attack, but also it will allow you to bring back your Sacred Beast from the graveyard either to your hand or special summon them. Just keep in mind that you can only special summon them if you have summoned them by their summoning requirements first. I don't know why, it's really annoying, but that is how the effect works, unless of course you're using Dark Summoning Beast because anime powers, or if you're using Immortal Class, a card that Yubel uses. Tribute 2 monsters, special summon a level 7 or higher monster from your graveyard, ignoring the summoning conditions, even if they haven't been summoned properly, because that's how Yubel used it, so somehow, that is how this card works, and that's what I'm going with. So that is it for the main deck. There's not a lot going on here, it's a very simple, straightforward deck. Sacred Beasts, go hard, go ham. I've already done the main combo, Chaos Core plus Dark Summoning Beast, bust out your 3 Sacred Beasts all at once. Fantastic. Next, let's go into the extra deck before going into the OTK combo. So, First of all, we have one copy of the anime version of Chaos Phantasm Armityle. This card can only be summoned with Dimension Fusion Destruction. It can inflict 10,000 points of damage per turn, and during your main phase you can switch control of it to your opponent until the end of the turn, and if you do, banish all other monsters your opponent controls until the end phase. So, pretty good card, can easily nuke your opponent's field if necessary, and is a 10,000 point beat stick on your turn, which is brilliant. Can't be destroyed by battle as well. So Chaos Phantasm Armityle, great card, 10 out of 10. Next we have one Phantasm Emperor Trilogy. You can summon this card with Dimension Fusion Destruction, the real life version. You usually wouldn't, but you never know, it can come in handy just to deal that final bit of damage or just to have a 4,000 point monster or whatever. Next up for our Xyz monsters, we have one numbers 35 Ravenous Tarantula, one copy of 7 Sins, one copy of Super Dimensional Robot Galaxy Destroyer, one copy of Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max to deal that final 2,000 damage, and the OTK card Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Liebe, which can obviously be summoned using Gustav Max or Tarantula, or even Dimensional Robot Galaxy Destroyer. Same with 7 Sins, can be summoned by any of these cards. So these cards are all pretty great. The main ones you'll go into is Gustav Max to deal the final 2,000 damage. This one can get rid of pesky spell or traps that your opponent has. The others are just good backups. They're just good backups, basically. Next for our Link monsters, we have one copy of Nightmare Cerberus, one Nightmare Phoenix, and one Nightmare Unicorn. These cards I feel like work really well in the Yubel deck. They just seem like Yubel cards. Just because they're fiends, and they're also corrupted versions of the Gem Knights. If you didn't know that, you do now. Much like Yubel corrupted Martin and Johann, and the Crystal Beast as well. So I think these cards are great for Yubel. They're also good for just getting rid of any annoying or problematic cards that your opponent has. So Nightmares, don't need to go over them. One copy of Link Kuriboh. This card is just to get rid of your Chaos Summoning Beast if for whatever reason it is on the field and you can't use its effect. We have one copy of Verte Anaconda. This will allow us to activate Dimension Fusion Destruction from the deck. It will also allow us to pull off the OTK combo, which I'll go over in a minute. But of course, if you don't want to use banned cards, swap it out with something else, doesn't really matter. One copy of Salamangreat Almirage. This, again, OTK combo, go over in a second. One copy of Unchained Abomination. This card is great. It destroys stuff on the field. I think it's a very Yubel card. It's a Dark Fiend. Look at it, it looks kind of Yubel-y. And it destroys stuff, including your own cards, which works well with Yubel's effect. Of course, we won't be doing that with this deck because we don't have the other copies of Yubel. But still, Unchained Abomination, good Yubel card. I think it would work well, and it just goes well in her deck. And finally, one copy of Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, just to get rid of any problematic monsters that your opponent may have. So, now, before we wrap up this video, let's go over the OTK combo. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the previous video in which I went over this deck. In the first duel, I did the OTK combo, and I've done it in another video as well, which I'll put in a card for here. And finally, I'll just wrap it up real quick here. I'll briefly go over it. If you have any questions, ask me in the comments, or check out one of the videos in the cards. Just click on the card, click a video. But basically, with this combo, it's a one-card combo, which is great. You will need either Opening of the Spirit Gates or Dark Beckoning Beast. You have basically six ways to use this combo, so it's very likely that you can do it on your first turn, which is great. Dark Beckoning Beast, if you summon him, add Opening of Spirit Gates. If you use Opening of Spirit Gates, add Dark Beckoning Beast. Then use the other one to add Chaos Core. Then you can normal summon Chaos Core with Beckoning Beast effect. Then you use Dark Beckoning Beast to go into Almirage, use Almirage, tribute it, target Chaos Core. Chaos Core's effect will send the free Sacred Beast to the graveyard. Then you will use Opening of the Spirit Gates, discard a card, bring back Dark Beckoning Beast, use Beckoning Beast and Chaos Core to go into Verte Anaconda, and finally pay 2,000 life points to activate Dimension Fusion Destruction straight from your deck, which will allow you to go into Chaos Phantasm Armityle. And if your opponent has a monster with 2,000 or less attack face up in attack position on the field, you win 8,000 points of damage just like that. Fantastic OTK, 10 out of 10. You're welcome. Anyway, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you liked this deck. If you try this deck out for yourself, let me know in the comments. Let me know how it goes. I want to hear it. If you have any upgrades or different versions of this deck, again, let me know your thoughts on this deck in general. I love this deck. This deck is a lot of fun, and it's Yubel's deck, which makes it even better because I love Yubel. Yubel is my favorite character, favorite card. If you didn't know, I adore Yubel. We all love Yubel here. as we all know. Anyway, Yubel, fantastic. If you love Yubel as much as I do, we will be going over Yubel's other 2 decks. We already did her Exodia deck last week, so if you want to check that out again, click the card above or wait till the end card to click the playlist there. But next week, we will be going over Yubel's Advanced Crystal Beast deck, and then of course after that, Yubel's Yubel Super Fusion God deck, which is pretty awesome as well. I have already made them both, and they are fantastic. I love them so much. They are so much fun. So be sure to subscribe if you want to see those decks. They're a lot of fun, really cool, really love them, and you get to see more of Yuri's epic editing with the showcase video, which is a lot of fun, so that's cool too. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. My name has been Senkara, and until next time, see ya.